we are here to look at some of the work we've done in the past 6 months. And the topic this time was neighborhood safety, and especially as it relates to youth. So teen safety with youth in City Heights. Now, one way for you to share your voices in our coverage is to become a public insight network source for us. Now, our news director from KPBS is here, Suzanne Marmion, and she has little cards that she can pass out if you raise your hand and you would like to have your voice heard in our news coverage. We would love for you to join and become a source for us. Thank you.
And if you fill these out right here and have a pen with you, you can turn it in to me or to Susan at the end, or you can go on our website and sign up too. Your voice into our coverage.
Before we get started with our panelists, I want to take a moment to thank Hoover High School and the staff of the San Diego Unified School District for having us in this beautiful facility. I'd also like to recognize the youth who worked with the Media Arts Center San Diego and the Oscar Project to put together the multimedia exhibits you saw outside, as well as the wonderful organizations set up to share their resources with us today.
Now I would like to introduce our first topic of the night, which is bullying. Not bowling, but bullying. To practice pronouncing that. From playground cruelty and lunchroom snickering to physical abuse and online rumors, we're hearing more about bullying than ever before. Just this week, there was another tragic story of a young boy who committed suicide after being taunted for many, many years. He's just one of many victims across the nation over the past year. I think there have been more than a dozen so far reported. There was also a recent documentary called Bullying that really has drawn attention to the issue and the problem. And the great news is that schools and communities are coming together to create programs for anti-bullying and ways to combat this issue and teach kids to cope and to learn to be nicer and more considerate to their peers. Before we introduce our panel members, we are going to look at a program here in City Heights where youth came together for a special photo project. Let me just tell you about that. So Monroe Clark Middle School students participated in one of the AJA Project's photography-based educational programs. The program called Photo City asked middle school students to turn the lens outward and use photography to critically examine community issues related to bullying, safety, and violence prevention. So please join me in taking a look at this special presentation.
Based on how they look or by who they are. Being judged by your religion is not something you want. Based on how they look or by who they are. Being judged by your religion is not something you want to pass through. The girl is making fun of the girl with the pink shirt because of her religion. I want people to learn that just because nobody is looking or is there, it is not alright to bully others. The girl is bullying another because nobody is looking.
I want people to understand that people who are left out want to join in with the new and more popular people. They're being left out because they are different and they don't want to stand out as much like kids that are not different. The difference is not something to be ashamed of. It's a talent you should be proud of. This represents something or someone that has a low self-esteem that feels locked up and keeps everything to themselves. People that seem quiet and insecure often get bullied.
The tree is like a human. The human hides in the shadow while the other trees are in the sun.
This picture represents how kids associate themselves and how they feel when they get bullied. This is how some kids feel, and this is why they bully.
In this picture, one person is walking away from the other. The girl in the black shoes came up to the girl in the pink shoes to talk, but she rudely walked away with a mean face. The girl with the pink shoes thought the other girl was nerdy and hideous. Sometimes people feel a lot of pain in their soul. Soon they decide that the world is over, so most commit death.
And now I would like to bring up our panel members. We have Mr. Rich Del Principe from Monroe Clark Middle School. He's the vice principal. Rich, thank you for joining us. And second, we got Courtney House. She's in 6th grade at Monroe Clark Middle School. Just out of curiosity, how many of you have ever been bullied? And how many of you have ever acted as the bully? Come on, let's go ahead and we're going to give you an opportunity as well to share in this conversation, and we hope that you will ask questions and share your experiences as well. So panel members, please tell us about the anti-bullying programs that you run at your school.
Well, at Clark Middle School this year, we're fortunate to have Officer Tuomo, who is one of the, I would say, the most qualified San Diego school police officer I've ever worked with in my life. She's been winning awards yearly for her Crime Stoppers efforts, and through Crime Stoppers and the Speak Out program, and now we have the Anti-Bullying Club that we instituted. We really are targeting, looking at bullying, educating the children about bullying, and bringing it to the forefront of our attention as we know how destructive it can be.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that anti-bullying club? Things to do?
Yeah, actually, Courtney's in that anti-bullying club, so she might be able to speak a little better to that.
Great, Courtney, tell us about it.
Sometimes we go on the morning announcements and we just say speak out because we don't want danger in our school. We want everybody to feel safe to come in our school. And that's what the anti-bullying club is here for.
They educate through hanging posters, they do lunchtime activities as well as speaking out. The week of June 25th, we're actually going to launch hopefully our first annual Anti-Bullying Week campaign. And the kids in the Anti-Bullying Club have created a whole skit presentation, a PowerPoint presentation, and they'll be presenting at that as well. So if you want to join us, by the way, come on over.
What do you think is the #1 challenge facing students when it comes to bullying?
The one challenge that I had facing my bully was to come up to him or her and say stop, because mostly they will say, if you tell anyone, I'll threaten you or kill you. And that's what mostly scares me, and I hope that better. Everybody gets scared.
Yeah, I would say fear is the #1 challenge. What's going to happen to me? Of course, the bullies are going to say, if you tell anybody, we're going to get you, or I'll get my friend to get you. So it really does take a lot of courage to stand up.
What do you think so much focus is being put on bullying nowadays?
I would say it's the information age, if you will. I mean, that's helped expose some of the things that are happening across the country, not only that, but across the world. We hear about bullying and other things as well. We're not unique. We think bullying is probably going on since the dawn of man. However, now I think with the information getting out and people really noticing it, seeing how much destructive it can be as lives are being lost because of it.
People put so much focus on bullying because they want everybody to be safe. come to school and feel safe. Not come to school and say, oh my God, I might die today. Oh my God, I might get jumped. So that's why they put so much focus on bullying, and we don't want an accident to happen.
So you talked about some of the ways you've made your school safer and welcoming, but can you kind of go into the details a little bit more? You said you have banners, you have clubs. Give us some more details.
We go around the school and hang posters that are anti-bullying made by themselves, express our feeling and art. And we also, in the anti-bullying week, I made a song to sing in front of the whole school. And, you know, we just try to make everybody feel comfortable at school, not safe, but.
Can I put you on the spot and ask you to sing it for us? Or you can use that microphone and atmosphere. Come on up, Jen. Take the seat.
Testing. I'm sitting in the dark room, nobody's by my side. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I look out the window, everybody seems to have a good time, but I'm sitting here crying my eyes out. I try to apply to the yeah, but I'm thinking about saying goodbye. I try to die. I wanna go to school. Everybody's being so cruel. Everybody walks behind me and they disagree with me. I finally said that I'm perfect the way I am. When they scream at me, they say I better scram. I'm perfect the way I am. Yeah. I say stop, but all they do is drop me. I try to stand, but they slap my hands and my head, and they wish I was dead. I scream I'm perfect the way I am. You can never change me. I might be strange, but you can never exchange me. I'm perfect the way I am. You call me a fool. You say I shouldn't be at school. I say this isn't fair. I took another glare, and I say I'm perfect the way I am. I knew that this was dumb, so I told someone I'm done. I won, and I'm not afraid to say I'm perfect the way I am.
How do you think, let's see, do you think there are certain students at your school who are bullied more than others? Who's being bullied?
Mostly 6th, 7th, 8th in high school, but everyone can be bullied, right? Everybody in the world can be bullied. So on that, I think it's an opinion because not just 6th, 7th, 8th in high school. Because I was bullied when I was in kindergarten. I was in the 6th. Now I'm not.
So it happens to all types of students.
Yes.
You have a very diverse school in City Heights. Tell us about who's being bullied.
You know, a lot of times, and this is only my opinion, you see students who are not successful in school for various reasons, whether it's their whole lives have been so tragic that they haven't been able to work on educating themselves and developing their skills. And unfortunately, those kids tend to gravitate towards each other. And these kids all kind of dress the same, look the same. They tend to evoke a certain image of society. And anyone who's not like that or doesn't, you know, or is too smart or doesn't fit their mold, so to speak, are the targets of bullying. And unfortunately, it becomes a concerted effort in that group. And that's another reason why I think it's so challenging, because bullies run in packs because they're afraid. And that's why they bully. And so they get together with other people who are like-minded, and they gather strength from each other, and then they go around on, power trips, if you will, and then try to, impose their will or, their fear upon others.
How do you think parents and community members can help reduce bullying in schools?
Well, I think that they can make the students at everybody high school, make them feel comfortable to come to a trusted adult, counseling, guidance, anywhere, and give them tips about bullying and how to stop it.
I would say things like this, education, the relationship building is huge, especially when kids go to middle school. Parents tend to kind of think, oh, my child's growing up, so I'm going to kind of stay off a little bit and let them grow. But in middle school, I think it's very important that you are really developing that relationship and really asking your children what's going on in school, how are you feeling about school, and or going to the park or being on a soccer team for heaven's sake, it happens everywhere. And so just really talking to your children and listening to them.
Your school seems to have a really strong anti-bullying program in place. I don't know how often you communicate with other schools nearby, but do you kind of have an advantage?
Well, I'll be honest with you. It wasn't. I believe it's because we got started with the Osler project. I meant to mention that earlier. This project right here kind of opened our eyes as well as administrators and school leaders as to how these kids are really feeling and how important this really is for us to really put it up on the pedestal, so to speak, or really examine it and really try to come up with plans to eradicate it, if you will. So we're just kind of starting, and I think we've been very successful with this. The Anti-Bullying Club is just doing an awesome job. And again, it's educating kids, it's getting the word out. The Crime Stoppers, police organizations are working with us. They have a new arm, if you will, of Crime Stoppers, which is Speak Out, which they can pick up the phone and anonymously report bullying. And so as Courtney says, our kids want to be safe. And we develop those relationships with the kids. We try to get them to understand that we care about them, we believe in them. And through these relationships, through the education, slowly we push bullying out and worry about achievement, which is what we should be focused on.
Great. What questions do you have? Experiences you want to share? Songs you want to sing?
Don't be afraid.
Marty Emerald, City Council, and over a year ago, the school board voted to be zero tolerance on bullying. Why just now are you finding that you're starting to crack the shell?
Yeah, well, I would say that we've always looked at it. There's unfortunately always been violence in schools. Even in my school, there were kids who went around intimidating people and things happened. But it might have been called a fight. It might have been called assault, battery. I don't know. But I think we're still looking at the same thing, if you will. But I think we're starting to understand that it's not just an isolated event, that it comes through a series of events that may start as early as kindergarten. As a matter of fact, we had an issue at our school the other day where two boys kind of had an altercation, and it came from 5th grade. That it started way back in 5th grade, and it was just kind of this ongoing thing. So I think we're asking different questions about when things happen. We're getting different information, and that's allowing us to see, okay, these aren't just isolated things. It's really an effort, and this person is really, if you will, putting a great effort into the bullying part of it.
And Courtney, are you seeing results from this program? And also, what more would you like to see so that when you come to school, you genuinely feel safe?
Yes, I do see results of anti-bullying club changing our school because now everybody's not afraid to stand up and say what they got to say. We encourage them to speak out against bullying.
Thank you for what you do for us.
No question.
I'm a director for American Science Star School for K through 8, and unfortunately, we have done kids.
I'm sorry?
We have done kids from our own part that have been bullied, but they're now at our school, and they want to not be surrounded by those kids. But I think a lot of the issues that we have that are causing bullying are boyfriend girlfriend issues and Facebook issues. And then there's like gangs, kids walking around at all hours of the day, being gangs, going in harassing kids' houses. So we want
from the internet. Of course, because people say, don't come to school next day, or something bad's going to happen to you. Oh, we'll get my gang, we'll come and jump you. And that's what makes kids feel unsafe. But I think that should become legal.
And you know, you did hit it pretty well. You know, we are a community organization, if you will. People come to us from all aspects of the community, and it's a meeting point, if you will, for the kids. And because of the internet, because of the Facebook, I tell you, I hope nobody owns stock in Facebook here, but I think Facebook is the biggest #1 disruptor to the social life of our children right now. They're able to say anything, it's unfiltered, if they can threaten people, which they do, which is electronic bullying, it's illegal now. There's a lot of issues with that. And it is true, there's a lot of stuff that comes from outside because we all get together in one place that happens in our schools.
So even though school's wrapping up, Facebook plays out all summer. Is there any programs or things that you tell the kids before dismissal?
You know, we try to educate them throughout. In the very beginning of the year, Officer Kay and I and counselors go through classrooms. We try to educate our children on the issues of Facebook. We are trying to get together some presentations for our parent groups so they can understand too, because that's really the biggest crutch, if you will, of this Facebook is that these kids can go anywhere to access it, especially with phones now. Some of the kids have internet access on the phone, so they can be bullying literally 24/7. And sometimes it is like that. It just never stops. It just goes from the school to the internet, back to school to the internet, and then out in the community. And it's really, I think it's really a bad thing right now.
We have time for one more question.
It feels like we have a great need for school counselors. And I really wonder what we can do as a community to push back against the massive layoffs that have happened. Our school counselors in recent past. For analysts and for council members, what do you suggest we do to fight these stuff out?
You know, I'm not as clever with these savages as everyone might be able to answer that a little better than I am. I just say stand up and speak out. It is, fortunately though, at Monroe Clark, we know we have a challenging population. It's a tough school to be at, it's tough school to teach at. But we do have wonderful children, as an example right here. So speaking out, our counselors, we were able to fund extra counselors at our school through Christ Charities. They've been instrumental in helping our school with social programs. So we have extra social workers at our school. But we are above and beyond. We have way more staff to help than a lot of other schools. And you're right, they are cutting counselors. They're cutting the support services around the teachers. And it's really going to affect that. Obviously, if the kids aren't mentally there, if they don't have their higher needs, if everything's not there, then they're not going to be worried about education. So we have to make sure they feel safe, make sure they're comfortable, make sure they feel loved. And, through that effort, hopefully we get there. But I completely agree with you.
Up until we can take a couple more questions. Right here.
I'm sorry? Where are the parents when this stuff is going on? Well, unfortunately, as I said, we're a microcosm of society. Sometimes we have parents that are fully aghast at the situation and hold their children accountable, and that's when usually the bullying ends. On the other end, we have parents who don't even show up for the meetings. They don't take a role, I guess, an active role in raising their children. And so it's the challenge that we have trying to work within that system of how successful we can be in trying to end this stuff. So again, we try to communicate as best we can. We let the parents know what's going on. We maybe phone call them, let them know we really want them to come in. We want to meet we want to sit. I've gone through experiences where I've had parents and students all sitting around the same table. Great, we're going to sit there and meet this right now and figure it out. And then on the other extreme, I've had parents who don't show up to the table. So it's kind of tough.
To me, bullying is like a disease, a scar, and like once you get bullied, you can never erase that. And honestly, it's not the parents' fault because they try to teach discipline and how to do kids right. But some kids are scared to go to the teacher and say what they have to say because they know one day the rumor will spread around and then the bully will try to find
me ask that really quick, because I just want to make sure that we don't go around thinking that Monroe Clark knows parents. I think, parents obviously try to do the best that they can. We know we have parents working 2, 3 jobs, right, to make ends meet. And what I do tell parents is, right now, and I don't know if this is all what, when I was 13, my older generation said, but I think that the streets have a mighty big pull right now. And that is also through the internet and through the age of information and the ability to kids to get to stuff that's really not appropriate for them. And they want to become grown-ups way too fast, and sometimes our society tries to push them to be grown-ups, and then when they try to act grown-up, we try to reel them back and say, well, why are you doing that? You're not grown up yet. So, there's a lot of stuff that we need to work on, and I think, that the parents are doing the best that they can. And that's what we take. We take them as they come, and we try to do what you said, is to try to wrap around them and try to give them the best education possible.
And this is a good time to wrap up. We'd like to thank Mr. Rich K, Vice Principal.
2007, about 1 in 20 California kids arrested for curfew was a kid in San Diego. That margin narrowed to about 1 in 5 in 2010. The police department has long said that sweeps are responsible for a recent drop in crime. What my analysis and Voice of San Diego have done in kind of the past months is to try to further understand that relationship. What we found by comparing neighborhoods, the crime in neighborhoods where police do the sweeps versus neighborhoods that don't do the sweeps, is that this relationship to crime is unclear. While crime has dropped across the entire city, we've seen a more dramatic decline in crime in places that don't do the curfew sweeps. We also looked at a common myth about curfew sweeps, about the time and the type of day that juvenile crimes happens. It's often said that curfew sweeps are done because the most violent crime involving kids happens during curfew hours. That's not true, as illustrated in the graphic behind me. This illustrates a lot of data about when juvenile crime happens across the city. The various peaks are either at 10 a.m. or 3 p.m., depending on kind of which metrics you use. Which kind of turns me to our panelists. We're going to talk a little bit about curfew sweeps and why they're done, as well as kind of some of the common questions that are already developed. A really good place to start is the police department has kind of struggled in recent years to maintain its staffing. As the city has cut its budget, the police department staffing has declined. So maybe a good question to start is, as we've seen kind of these resources decline, why have curfew sweeps been in place that we want to place additional emphasis? I don't know which one of you just want to take that first.
The emphasis has been put on doing the curfew sweeps for a couple of reasons. The number one reason, the community wants us to conduct these curfew sweeps. The one thing that we cannot protect our children from is the unknown. And historically, it is fair to say that most people that commit violent crimes like darkness. They can hide in the darkness, they can sneak up on people in the darkness. They're harder to identify, and there are less people that can identify them. There's less witnesses out there to identify them. When I see a statistic that says that juvenile crime is lower at night, I see that as us doing a good job of preventing those things from happening, by keeping our kids from being on the street.
Okay. Do you want to add in?
I think, curfew sweeps are very important. I've been on 21 years, and the majority of those years have been out in the police car, driving the streets and driving the alleys at 3 o'clock in the morning. When we do curfew sweeps and we're taking these children off the streets, we're saving their lives. It's very important because we're saving those children's lives.
Now, the way that I always kind of heard curfew sweeps talk about is that there are two main benefits to the program. One is that you're hoping that you're stopping kids from committing crimes themselves, as well as taking them kind of out of harm's way. How have you seen that kind of importance of have you seen kids that they believe were going to commit crimes, as well as kids that were putting themselves in unsafe situations?
I think in some of the cases, we're never going to know what their purpose for being out is. I can tell you, I've been doing the curfew sweeps in the last year, and certainly we have our fair share of kids that come in that are committing crimes other than curfew at the time that we see them. It's not unusual for us to have kids that are coming in that are already under the influence of drugs and alcohol at that time. I personally had to call ambulances to come and take kids that were so intoxicated that it was not safe for them to be there. In one particular case, I got a phone call from the father the next day thanking me for sending his child to the hospital, because as soon as he got into the hospital, he went into seizures and convulsions, and being in the hospital was the best place for him. So having them out there, I can't tell you what they would have done had they been left to their own devices. But certainly I can see a certain number of kids that are coming in that are already committing crimes when we bring them in.
What do you think is kind of the reach of the net? I don't know if that's the reach of the net that you kind of cast over the neighborhood. So a common question that I always get is, there's no doubt that kids out past 10 p.m. are violating the curfew. It's whether or not it's necessary to kind of fully arrest kids, whether you're targeting the kind of the good kids versus the bad kids. I mean, so are you punishing kids that are good otherwise and teaching them a lesson by arresting them in curfew and maybe bringing them into like a virtue? You know.
I think that's a concern that a lot of people come to us with. As far as I'm concerned, from my experience, kids are kids, good or bad, kids are kids, and when they're out after 10 p.m., they're putting themselves in at-risk situations. We run a diversion program through Star Pal that focuses on girls who have been arrested for curfew and truancy. And the majority of those girls were in situations where they were at risk. They were drinking alcohol, doing drugs at parties, which leads into them becoming victims of human trafficking.
And if I can add to that, I don't necessarily see what we're doing. Arrest is a strong word when it comes to curfew. When we bring kids into custody, they are detained, they are not arrested. And I don't see where our purpose in doing this is to punish them. First and foremost, we are trying to protect those kids from being victims. And when we send them to the diversion programs, what we're trying to do is educate them on how to make better decisions. Because one bad decision could lead to other bad decisions. We want to make sure that our kids are getting all the resources that are available to them to help them make good decisions.
So San Diego's curfew sweeps are often called collaborative curfew sweeps because they involve this diversion program. And that's a very unique program. Basically, rather than police departments across the country conduct curfew sweeps, they basically send cops out and arrest kids and then bring them to the parents or whatever. What's interesting about what San Diego police do is that they'll bring these kids to the station or some type of church or community center and then connect the parents and these children with a diversion program or a social service function to try to help them kind of understand the problem of why that kid was out past 10 p.m. I was hoping you guys could maybe explain kind of what the diversion programs are in a little bit more detail, is why you hope they are helping kids.
The diversion program that myself and Portia Dawson with Star Pal is also an instructor there. These girls need to know what dangers are out there. They need to learn how to make better choices for themselves. We focus on building their self-esteem. We focus on teamwork. We focus on them looking out for their peers. The most important thing, I think, that a lot of these girls that we work with get out of it is they are now more aware of the dangers out there. Somebody slipping something in their drink at a party and then waking up in some alley. I've had a lot of victims, majority of girls were underage and had horrifying situations happen to them because they were out after curfew. That's what our diversion program teaches. Education is power. And once the completion of these projects, they now have more awareness about them, what's out there, and what to do to help other girls, how to reach out and be more of a leader. And that's what we focus on, leadership and making better choices.
Yeah, just piggyback at Sergeant Peggy was saying, I'm Portia Dawson, also with Star Pal. And one thing that we have at the diversion is it's not just Star Pal's early program. There's diversion there for kids that have mental health issues. There's diversion there for kids that have substance abuse issues. There's diversion there for kids who might be ready to be gang related. Because when the curfew sweeps are taking place, we are catching these kids that are going to get jumped in. And so what we do, one thing that we have that we say to the kids when they come in, one thing I make sure I say every time is, we saved your life today. I understand what you're saying about like, you know, sometimes kids are just like, good kids. We have a whole bunch of straight A students in our diversion programs. And after the city is over, are they happy? Yeah. And we wish that all kids could come to our diversion or any of the diversions because that's that extra little bit the parent might need. You know, what we're saying is when you come to diversion, you don't have to go to work. And you're getting an opportunity to still learn how to document record.
Right.
Could you repeat that, the last part?
I said you get the chance to not have a blemished record because when you go to diversion, you don't have to go to work. If it's your first provision, you get to go to a diversion program. It's like our diversion program is a free program you get to go to. They do so many community service hours and then they just get that rolled off.
So they're basically kind of, please correct me if I'm wrong, there are kind of three options if you're, detained during one of these purpose weeks. You can either kind of go to court and fight your ticket, you can either kind of pay a fine, or you can go to a diversion program. And one of the benefits that we talk about with the diversion programs is if you complete the program, that violation is erased from the child's criminal record. So that was, and maybe you guys can answer this a little bit, that was set up to, as a concern about the idea that curfew sweeps introduce kids to the criminal justice system, and that by completing these diversion programs, children would make sure that they did not have a record after the sweeps were done. I was hoping you guys could have a
First and foremost, we try to get all the kids to go through diversion programs because it gives them a chance to get life skills that the vast majority of us didn't get until we got into college or out on our own. Specifically about the Girl League program, I wish that I had a class like that because it gives you a perspective on what life will be like after high school. And I don't think most kids understand that there is a world outside of high school. I have a son at home. He's been completely invincible since he was 14 years old. And he doesn't have a real concept of all of the possibilities of things that could go wrong for him. A lot of these diversion programs teach these kids about what goes on in the real world, what they can expect in their life once they're responsible for their own well-being. We try to get all the kids that are eligible to go to diversion. And even if they've been to diversion programs before, as long as they're not on probation, we'll put them through another program and get them into a different program because sometimes it's just a different message that'll get through to them. So we try as many ways as we can to get the right program for the right kid. And almost always the kids come back and tell us that they learned something that they didn't know about how the real world works for going through the diversion program.
I think also that it's, they come back to us and they're like, wow, I just wish I would have known this. And from what I see that it's a community problem. We can point the finger at the schools, at the parents, at the police, but the bottom line is everybody needs to work together as a team. It's a community issue. And a lot of these children aren't prepared for that next step out of high school. They don't know what to do. They don't know what dangers are out there. We help them prepare for that next step. And we help the families, we help the parents. It's difficult being a parent, especially now. I can't even imagine what it would be like to raise a teenager in today's, it's just amazing work. But the community has to get together. Everybody has to work together. So.
And that's the beauty of what we have going here in City Heights. The police department and the community come together every month because we have the common goal of keeping our kids safe.
One of the kind of surprising follow-ups to my reporting was a letter from Vincent Cannon, who, for the most part, I've always heard the curfew sweeps talk about it in a very positive way, and I have no problem saying that it's one of the most most praised crime-fighting programs in the entire city, at least in the past several years. What was surprising to hear about it from Vincent Campbell in my reporting was the description that this program was divisive in the community. That there was a large section of the community that opposed the curfew sweeps in City Heights, and that there are many who support it. And so we could talk about that and see if you notice that division.
I can say for my part that I did not notice that at all. When you told me that before we came in here today, that was the first that I had heard of that. The one thing I find so amazing about our curfew sweeps in the time that I've been there is how much it has grown and how much more community support we get. In the last couple of sweeps, I've actually had to tell the volunteers if they don't feel that they are being useful, if they don't have enough work to do, that it's completely okay to leave and let the police come back another day. Because I've had so many volunteers that come in and want to help protect our kids that there simply are not enough jobs for everybody to do. I literally have 3 times the number of volunteers coming into the sweeps as I do officers. And frankly, because of our limited staffing that we have on the department, we couldn't do it without the volunteers coming out and helping us. It is such a huge advantage to us to have so many people that are willing to spend an entire Friday or Saturday night. When I say entire, they're there until 2, 3 in the morning, helping us keep those kids safe. I couldn't ask for a better community to do this.
I'm kind of interested in your thoughts. As far as I know, the statistics that we kind of overviewed are kind of the most thorough analysis of looking at whether the sweeps are effective at reducing crime, at least at more depth than the police department has ever done. I'm curious on your thoughts on whether you think the sweeps are effective at reducing crime, and if so, how can you explain why?
Well, the one thing that I'm absolutely certain of is that statistics aren't going to protect our kids. People are going to protect our kids. I love that your statistics show that there is less violent crime at night. I wholeheartedly believe that the reason there isn't is because we're trying to keep those kids from being out there to be victimized. I'm sure that the statistics support that these kids aren't being victims at night, but for that parent that gets that phone call that their kid was, I'm sure that it doesn't matter to them that more kids get hurt during the day than at night. There are so many unknowns that we have to deal with. And if parents knew what time of the day they could protect their kids and keep them from being victims, then they would do that. The whole purpose of our sweeps is to keep those kids safe from those unknowns. And statistics, they can change at any time.
Yeah, the really tricky thing was statistics is that there's so many different ways to read them. So you can look at the graphics that I showed you earlier and say, well, crime went down in the places that are doing curfew sweeps, so obviously that program must be working. You can also look at the statistics about how crime is changing elsewhere and question whether or not, how much of a role curfew sweeps are playing in that decline. So you can't really prove each other each way, but there are valid reasons to kind of support both of those.
I think as well, on top of that is, at night and through education and the tight community that we have here, I've worked the majority of my career in City Heights neighborhoods. And I've been out there on the alleys and then at night and driving. And I'll tell you what, out of all the different places I've worked within this city, this is where we have the most cooperation from the community. I have parent people call me at 3 o'clock in the morning on my cell phone, hey, I've got juveniles hanging around here. I go over there. So it's community involvement. The police can't do it without the community, and we are only successful as a community that supports us. And here, I've seen a tremendous amount of support from the community and involvement, and that's why I would say our stats are low because of everybody's help. We can't do it alone.
Do you think the model that's being kind of used in City Heights can be used elsewhere in the city?
Absolutely.
Why?
I think because, City Heights is very unique. We have a very diverse neighborhoods here, and we have a lot more challenges here than a lot of different parts of the city do. But I think that if everybody could follow our model and everybody could come together in different parts of the city and be more involved and more engaged in their community, then this model would be successful everywhere. I worked down in San Ysidro for probably over 10 years, and I worked on the border, and I had the female victims crossing the border that was down flooded in the bars down there. And the community down there was very tight, but then again, you had a lot of different challenges down there. So I think a big part of it is just education, and people following this model that work down there very well, and they have a very good community. Cooperation with the police there as well.
And And we do have other communities within San Diego, other police divisions that are looking at what we're doing here in City Heights, and they're asking to come to our suites and to see what we're doing, and they want us to educate them on how they can get their community involved like we have here. We are definitely being set up as a model of how to work together, both the police department and the community. And I field phone calls on a regular basis from other divisions wanting to know if they can attend our suites and see how we do it, and asking for our help in establishing these same types of relationships.